One thing, I can't fucking stand Gabi. Can't stand her. Let's get into this review of episode 11 of season 4 of Attack on Titan. What's up, everybody? It's Kasanova, Hawaii content creator, back with another review of an Attack on Titan episode. This is season 4, episode 11. And before we dive into that, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, ding the notification bell. That way you stay up to date on all the latest and greatest content that comes from this channel. So yeah, episode 11 came and went, and boy, the feels were really there. You could feel the gravity, the pressure, the tenseness of the situations going on was absolutely insane. So basically, this episode kicks off at the tail end of chapter 108, where you basically have Gabi, fake being sick. Falco calls over the guard. Gabi swings, batter up swing, and knocks out the guard, and then goes to kill him because she's got like a loose brick in her blanket, and she just proceeds to beat the shit out of him until she kills him. It's really, if they're ever trying to paint an image, and there's some duality between Gabi and Eren, because you're gonna see something later on in this episode that's gonna make you see like, oh, okay, there's the similarities between Eren and Gabi. I know that there's an attempt to, generate some compassion for Gabi, but she's such an insufferable character that's just like protected by plot armor. I just can't stand her. Like she's like Eren when he was a little shitty kid, and just worse, because she's so, and this dives into like the further aspect of like the psychology of child soldiers, because effectively you can manipulate children to do whatever you want them to do if you just fuck with their psychology. And she's been, honestly, looking at her, she's got the worst case of Stockholm syndrome. Like, she is so indoctrinated in this Marleyan ideology of just the island devils of paradise. So, like, it's just insanely sickening how deranged this little cunt is. You know what I mean? Like, she's just, yes, I said cunt. I saw you looking in the back. That little bitch is crazy as hell. Just crazy. Like, I'm about to have a conniption here. Because look, if y'all haven't already, that's Leo Superfina to this side of me. Go check her out. She's got really great content. She also did a review of this as well. Link for that would be in one of these corners and down below in the description. Anyway, back to the review. So, just how indoctrinated and brainwashed this child is into committing such atrocities. But at the same time, this goes to the brilliance of the writing of the mangaka, because you had to show her as this steadfast, hard-headed, go-getter. I'm a Marleyan soldier. I think, and there's the deeper context of how this like touches on like the social commentary of how this touches on even modern day now, when people have this ideology of being on the right side of history. Because the thing is, there's always people on the opposite side of the belief that you have that are either caught up in it and have nothing really to do with the conflict, or they're just good people that are just as brainwashed and indoctrinated into the bullshit that you are, just on the opposite end of that. And the mangaka just really drives it home with Gabi, just really, really drives it home with her. She's so insufferable. I can't fucking stand her. Anyways, sorry, I'm ranting at this point. So it goes on from there. They escape, right? So they escape, and then from escaping, they get out to this little brook spring And then they run into one of these, this little girl who Gabi, her first, this is the craziest thing, is her first instinct with anyone from Paradis is to try and kill them. She does not, I mean, she's a terrible soldier. Actually, no, she's a great soldier. She's a great soldier because she doesn't ask questions and she'll just do what she's told to do. That's just the brain dead stupid soldier. That's a good soldier right there, because you can make them accountable for anything and you're not liable for anything at all. So anyway, what goes on from there, so her first instinct is to try and kill this little girl. And then Falco's like stopping her every time she tries to do something stupid. And it's just, you see and feel that tension, because every time Gabi wants to do some dumb shit, Falco's over there like, can you please? Like, I'm over here like, my man, I understand. I feel your pain right now. You're over here like, can you not? Can you not? Can you fucking not? But she does. Unsuccessfully, but she does. But one of the most like trying parts of like this whole, and I'm glad that the show nails it just as good as like the manga is really hard. If you haven't read the manga, please go and read the manga. It's just as good. You already know what the voices sound like in your heads. Just go imagine that they're talking and just read. Okay, go read the manga. Anyway, so there's a section in the manga, and it's perfectly replicated in the anime, where Falco snatches off, the armband that Gabi's wearing, right? So as soon as he takes it off, she snaps. She fucking goes psycho. And she jumps on Falco, and basically she's going crazy. She's going crazy. She's over here like, I'm a good alien. Without this, I'll be no different than the devils of this island. Like, the anime nailed it perfectly, where the manga, like, point for point, shot for shot, point for point, it's doing the same exact thing, and it's firing on all cylinders. It's fucking amazing. And it's just, I'm looking at it, and again, diving into the psychology of Gabi, she is so brainwashed. It's, I guess, okay, I said earlier that there's no way you can give sympathy for her, but I'm wrong, because in a way you can look at her and you can feel a little bit of the sympathy, in the sense that she's just a child that's just brainwashed. Like that whole, I'm a good alien, like that's classic Stockholm Syndrome right there. That line, that one line, I'm a good alien. Without this, I'll be no different from the devils of the island. That's Stockholm Syndrome. She's got it. Terrible. Like, they've been drilling, you can tell they've been drilling this bullshit into her since she was tiny, or tinier than what she is now. So fast forward, you see the envoy from the other nation go. They're talking about the ice blast crystal, the crystal basically from the the ODM gear that they're going to be able to use in a plane to fuel it, right? So that's point for point from chapter 109. And from there, Falco and Gabi go to the house. They sit down with the family, where they start to eat with the family. And then the minute that the mother puts her hands on Gabi's head, she flips out. And then Falco calms her down. And then the father's like, hey, honey, they've been through a lot. Just let them be. Don't worry about it. And so Falco tries to kill all the tension by eating, like talking about how good the food is, knowing there's so much tension, you can cut it with a hot butter knife. It is insane. And then the intensity heats up when Gabi picks up the spoon and she puts the food in her mouth, and you can tell there's just so much spite and vitriol in her that she just doesn't want to do it. But she's, it's like the programming in her mind. It's like that fight or flight thing, where the pre-programming in her mind and the rationality are just, just doing this right here. And she's just like, okay, fine. I'll just go along with Falco. This one time I'll go along with your plan. So she does it. And then, you shift over to the other scene. Same thing as a manga, where you see Hange, where she's going into, she's going into the building. And then you got all the aliens, Paradis, they're interrogating her, and they're asking like, hey, what's going on? Why are you guys holding Eren? Jaeger is going to be he should lead us. He's going to help us go forward and be free and fight the rest of the world. And there's just a lot to unpack there. And thankfully, the anime covers it point for point. Like, there's not a bit, like, not a beat that's at all skipped. Then you see, like, the interrogation that Hange had with Floch, who, if you look at the earlier chapters, Floch was such a minor character. And for those of you who've read the manga, you know what Floch becomes. And for those of you who are anime only purists, Floch becomes one of the biggest antagonists in this whole show. He's not the main one. He becomes a real big one because he has really become brainwashed because he's part of the Jaeger faction, like, the Jaegerists. So he's really of the belief that Eren is going to be the one that's going to save everybody and destroy the outside world to protect everyone on Paradise. And the crazy thing is, when you really break it down, like, there's so many levels of psychology here. If you really were to break it down, you'll see that the underlying theme here is that you fight monsters long enough, you become one. The people that want to liberate themselves on Paradise Island from the rest of the world, from the Marleys and everyone else, are only going to become the very thing, the very monsters they're fighting. That's that cyclical nature with this whole thing is, and the brilliance of this show is that there's really no decent, innocent people, except for the kids. They're the only ones. And following that, then you have the situation where Hange is in the room by herself, and she has a flashback of another person that she had previously, imprisoned, and just the conversation that they had. And she's just flustered. She just straight up throws her hands in the air, shakes them, and says, "I'm pooped." And it's just crazy because, like, even though in the manga she says I'm tired, but it's still the same feeling. Point for point, the energy is just fully captured in the anime from the manga. Then you go on and she says that, look, I can't rest. There's still something more that I need to look into. So she is trying every way that she can to find an alternative to Eren's method of activating the rumbling. Because that is a conversation her and Floch were having, was about activating the rumbling, which would ultimately level the rest of the world. And that's something that Hange does not want to go along with, even though she is one of the ones who went along with Zeke's plan, which was to activate the rumbling. That was his plan. It's not really his plan, but that's his plan. So fast forwarding past that, you have Mikasa, who's in the waiting cell area, basically talking to this other girl that she had saved previously some years prior, who has herself become a Jaegerist. And she's basically, the little girl asks Mikasa, like, hey, have you ever been in this cell before? And Mikasa's like, no. And there's a slight difference between how the manga approaches this and the anime approaches this. So the manga approaches this with the little girl stating that this is the same cell you were once put into, isn't it, Mikasa? Mikasa responds with, no, it was another one. She says, is that so? That is a shame. But I don't regret breaking the rules. Now in the anime, when Mikasa's asked the same exact question, she says no. And that's it. There's no additional context, which is why I say read the manga, because there's a little thing. There are things like this that you won't get if you're just anime only. They complement each other, is what I'm saying. So basically, the little girl, her name is Louise, she keeps going on trying to just like show her infatuation and loyalty to Mikasa, but she's also a Jaegerist. And Mikasa's like, shut up, stop talking. This kind of talk is going to extend your prison time. And so the girl goes on to like talk about how like she's, Mikasa is the one who saved her. And then she goes on to ask her, like, why did you join the Survey Corps? Which, Mikasa's like, shut your mouth. And then so the girl, as Mikasa's walking away, she turns around, the girl just goes, basically, that's the Survey Corps salute. Now, here is another area where the anime and the manga kind of differ, because in the anime, you see a whole bunch of flashbacks to when Mikasa first met Eren, and Eren just viciously slaughtered everyone in front of him that was trying to like sell off and enslave Mikasa and her family. Basically, he killed her family. She was the only one left. So in the manga, the difference is you only see bits and pieces of this that flash. It goes on to the next area where you have the other guy interrogating the woman who basically kickstarted everything that's going to high shit right now. You have the discussion that goes on. It's very minor in both the anime and the manga. There's nothing really you're missing here. Then we get towards the end of the show, end of this chapter of the manga, and basically you've got the scene where Falco and Gabi are in the horse stable. Basically, the horse attacks, or he basically, the horse is messing with and ribbing Gabi, but Gabi she's taking everything so fucking seriously. It's just absolutely ridiculous. And so she assumes that, it must be the work of the devil aliens. And Falco's like, actually, I don't think any horse would let you ride it. And then it just keeps going and going to like where the girl walks in and says, hey, it's time for lunch. And then they go out and they start talking, conversing. And basically, as they're talking during lunch and eating, then Gabi goes on her same, she starts regurgitating the bullshit she's been told. She says, like, you speak as if you've done nothing to deserve it, or you're forgetting all the countless atrocities that the people of this island committed upon the rest of the world. Now that all the aliens are aware of the sins they carry, their path to eternal atonement has finally opened. And so then the girl's like, what does that have to do with the children who lost their parents? And she said, it's true. No matter how much they pretend to be good people, they can never escape the gravity of their sins. She is so fucking brainwashed. Like, she believes this shit, like, to her core. Right? So, and that's, I'll touch on that in a minute. We'll come back to that. So, goes on. They keep going back and forth. They're bantering. And then, Falco explains after the girl realizes that they're Marleyans. Falco explains that they have no means of getting back to Marley and goes on from there, of which Gabi snaps, walks over, picks up the pitchfork, and she's basically she's willing to kill that girl in cold blood right there. Again, this little bitch has no qualms about murdering anybody. That's Eren, basically. So Falco stops her, and then the girl, after all this commotion has been made, and the other people in the farm are seeing what's going on and they're concerned, the girl actually covers for Falco and Gabi, who are called tentatively Ben and Mia. And so they go to the girl's, her hometown where the Titans attacked about 4 years ago. And basically where they are, they're learning the background of the girl, like her, her family history, like basically what happened that led to her being on the farm with a certain person's family. So it goes on to the girl is describing how her mother was eaten viciously by a Titan. So then as she's explaining that, Gabi goes on to basically say that they're justified in their death because, for the 4,000 years that they've committed atrocities against it. She goes back into this bullshit. She just goes on. And then there's the back and forth because she starts spouting it, and then the girl's like, but my mother was born and raised here. I don't think she had anything to do with the terrible things that you mentioned. But Gabi keeps going and going. She's like, stop trying to act like you're the victim here. And she just keeps going like, the problem is the sins your ancestors committed 100 years ago. And the girl's like, 100 years ago? The people living here now, what about them? What sins have they committed? So then what you're seeing here, I could keep going, but what you're seeing here is what happens when someone who has Stockholm syndrome or someone who has deep psychological programming for bullshit, like this idea of being on the right side of history, right? When the narrative that they've been told starts to crumble in their face. So Gabi is trying in this instance not just to convince the girl that she and the aliens are wrong on, the aliens on Paradise Island, are wrong and they sin. She's not just trying to convince her. She's trying to convince herself to justify the heinous acts that she is committing. And as she's constantly trying to convince this girl, the girl is like, why are we paying for things that we didn't do? We had nothing to do with what happened to Marley. We were here. This is the world that we're in. We're victims. We had nothing to do in your conflict. And meeting the reality as it's just smashing into the narrative that Gabi is trying so hard to clutch onto, it crumbles. It crumbles in the instance where the girl grabs her and she says, my mother never killed anyone. Tell me, Mia, answer me straight. Why did my mother have to suffer so much and die like that? There has to be a reason to it. Tell me why. Otherwise, it's just wrong. Why did my mother have to be eaten alive? Tell me, what did she die for? Why? Tell me. And you're seeing in Gabi's eyes, the narrative crumbles. It absolutely crumbles. She can't explain it. None of the things that she's been taught matter in this instance because she can't explain it. Because she knows herself it doesn't make sense. And in this instance, Falco explains that it's because it was a reconnaissance to do a survey on Paradise Island, and that's why all those atrocities happened. And so at that point, the girl goes on to say that if it was not for a certain girl, her big sis, well, at this point, she's calling her sis an endearment, but they're not related. But she was saved by a girl that fought off that Titan. And it shows that that girl was Sasha, the very one that Gabi killed. Right now, Gabi doesn't know that. She will. Probably in the next episode or two, she will. Now, as it is, there's not going to be any issues with the girl and Gabi yet, until she realizes that the woman she idolized, which is Sasha, was killed by Gabi, who she has compassion for. There's so much psychology that goes into these episodes in this manga of just, you look at it and it has so much. What I love about Attack on Titan is the social commentary it has on the world that we live in. It speaks so deeply to, are we, what is justice? What is right? What is actually wrong? Are we justified in the atrocities that we commit to save the few versus the many? Are those that we claim to be wrong, those that we claim to be our enemy, are they really our enemy? It's such profound commentary. I absolutely love it. And it's just, I'm sad that the manga is ending in 2 chapters, but like, God, it's so good. You look at Gabi, and she is exactly what Eren was. The difference is Gabi has things in place that will prevent her from becoming exactly like Eren, because they are the parallel of one another at this point. They really are. So post credits, the Marley and Titan regiment came together. They were talking, and they decided that in 6 months they're going to go and attack Paradise Island, and it's, they need to do a reconnaissance as well to figure out what's going on. So that happens in chapter 108, whereas chapter 109 in the manga ends with Gabi, the girl, and Falco. In the anime, what happened in chapter 108 with the Marleyan regiment actually is the post-credit scene. And that's the last difference there. And honestly, like I said, this was a great episode. There's a lot of tension, a lot of things that was happening. It was very, I will say this, like, it was very faithful to the manga. Even if certain aspects were switched around, it is overall very effective storytelling. And I thought that they did very, very well. Like, I gotta give it up to Malpa Studios because they are nailing it with the art style, with the just perfectly replicating the manga to the anime. They're doing so well with it. I just absolutely love it. Great episode overall. So what do you guys think? Post your comments below. Let me know what you think. If you enjoyed my review of episode 10 of Attack on Titan season 4, as well as basically being chapters 108, or the latter half of 108 and 109 of the manga combined into one. Whatever your thoughts are, leave it down below. If you haven't already, sub to the channel, ding the notification bell. That way you stay up to date on all the latest and greatest content that comes from this channel, such as manga and anime reviews, reactions, tech and game reviews, podcasts, and so much more. So yeah, make sure you sub. And also, if you're looking for streams, I stream every single week on twitch.tv/MikhailKasanova. So catch me over there. And if you're in the market for a new podcast, check out Hawaii's #1 podcast, the Kasanova Podcast, where I interview various people in the tech, the gaming industry, content creators, celebrities, voice actors, and so much more. So Kasanova Podcast on every major podcasting outlet. With that being said, I'm Mikhail Kasanova. I'm signing out. Deuces, wow, too sweet, be the elite. I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Hey, you made it to the end of the video. I really want to say mahalo and gracias for doing so. It is truly amazing that I have people that actually enjoy my content. I mean, you made it to the end of the video, so I assume you enjoyed it. If you didn't, hey, there's a dislike button you can always hit. I know, some people like to do that, but hey, whatever. I just am appreciative of the fact that you came through, you watched it, you got to this point. If you want to do me a solid, go ahead and hit the like button if you really liked it. And if you loved it, go ahead and sub for more content like this. If you want to support my work, we've got channel memberships, we got Patreon, and all that will pop up somewhere on the screen here and linked down below. Your support means a lot to me. If you know someone who would enjoy this type of content, go ahead and share it. That's what matters most. You guys watching it and sharing it with someone who might enjoy it, a friend, who knows. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Mahalo again, gracias, and fa'afatai. I will see you on the next one. Yeah, there's 3 different languages I spoke there. So Hawaiian, Spanish, and Samoan. So gives you a little detail as to what I'm mixed with. But with that being said, I'll see you guys on the next one. Y'all stay blessed, stay safe, and yeah, happy gaming, happy streaming. Have a good one.